We have to do the pledge.
Yes.
Attorney General?
Here.
Commissioner?
Here. Doug, you want to lead us?
Oh, yeah, we're not praying. We're pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Say a prayer, too.
I need.
Deanne. Good afternoon. I almost said good morning. One big loan for you. The city of Kindred is $5,300,000 to construct sanitary and storm sewer along with a sanitary lift station and stormwater pond for the Meadow Trails Development Phase 1. They also have a small drinking water project that they're replacing and pipe, water main and hydrants. It's not part of the approval, but they are going to issue improvement bonds payable with special assessments, and they've requested a 30-year loan term. And the average annual payment for the improvement bonds will be $222,000. And based on that information, the advisory committee recommended approval of this loan.
So move.
Second. Discussion.
Looks like
Kindred
good
City
project.
motto. Where kindness is the way of life.
I like that.
Roll call.
Commissioner?
Yes.
Attorney General?
Yes.
Governor Stevens?
All right, then we had 3 loans that were under $2 million that the advisory committee approved. They were to Garrison Rural Water, the city of Kindred, and the city of Lorton. Any questions on those? I would gladly answer those at this time. Alrighty. Just one item under other business. What this letter for you? Aaron too, yes, for the order, so. I'd like to retire at the beginning of next year, and is my letter requesting, or I guess saying that I want to do that.
I entertain a motion to disapprove. That seems kind of rash. Wasn't very well thought out. I mean, I literally just walked in here 10 minutes ago and now you're retiring. I said,
Yeah, I guess based on what you said, I'm done. You moved me to it, Attorney General.
I like it. You're not the first day.
Tell
So,
me where you pulled it.
Yeah.
Well,
so,
how long have you been here?
it'll be 28
Nine
years in May, not as executive director, right? April 1st, that'll be 17 years,
Yeah, I remember.
a long
when-
time.
Yeah.
Too long probably for some people.
You don't want to know that. Always stay at even 30.
No, thank you.
Get a better plaque.
Well, thank you for giving us a heads up. So, well, not my call. I'm just one person here, but yeah. Thank you.
Well, thank you guys for,
All the years that I've had a chance.
I've enjoyed working with all of you and I enjoyed what I've done, but time to move on and torture my family a little bit more,
Will you still answer yourself?
I suppose.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good work, and you've had really good backdrops on all of your reports from Jamestown. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
You've really served at an interesting time in this capacity the last many years, right?
Yeah, it has been. It has been.
Wow.
Air money, the bill money. It's been a lot, but done a lot of good, and I'm sure we'll continue to do that. And got a $200 million bond issue to get taken care of here in the next couple of months, and get that taken care of as well too. So
Yeah.
The legislature has moved a lot of resources into this area of things, and the state's a lot better for it. Obviously, but it has to be administered.
well, this program has all been special funds. that-
right.
Right.
You're right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
But yes.
I think you know the wastewater fight's coming, so you're leaving. That's good.
Well, I think it's really,
Because I know
really-
you're smart.
it's really, really needed, and I hope that we're able to do something for that, because a lot of the loans that I do bring only are taking care of the water
Hmm.
because we have the grant money to put towards the water. And as the bill funding is wrapping up this year, there won't, as that's wrapping up and as at the pre-commission meeting for the State Water Commission, they weren't able to fund all of the municipal water, or that's what it's looking like. There's going to be challenges on the waterfront and anything that we can do to help them do both at the same time and not go back and dig up what they took care of for the water and then come back and take care of the sanitary sewer later, I think would be much more efficient and much better use of our state resources and the community's resources as well.
Public thinks so. They made a lot of comments over the years. They just dug that up. Now they're back 5 years later, digging it up again.
And we've really
You tell them
worked
what-
together with the Bank of North Dakota, the Department of Water Resources. We've worked closer than ever these last few years to make sure that they're not doing those things. So, yeah. Well, that's all I have for today. But you're not done with me for a while, so thank you.
Good.
Stan.
Yeah, thanks for the.
I think
notes.
like the next meeting we'll talk about.
Yeah. Give you an
We're not replacing you because you're not replaceable. We will talk about what
Okay.
the structure and stuff will look like.
Okay. All's good.
Folks. Well, how you doing? Good. Yourself? Good. I'm good.
Hello.
So we have consideration of approval of the 2027 low income housing tax credit.
Yep, that's me. So annually, we are required to create a qualified allocation plan for our low income housing tax credits. For the tax. Allocate the credits a year ahead, because that gives our properties more time to place in service and utilize the credits because there's some federal guidelines. And so that's why you see that it's the 2027 qualified allocation plan, not a typo. It will be used in the September 2026 application round. So that is, but we're allocating 27 credits. We go through a whole process of getting public comment and a comment period regarding any draft changes of the plan because the scoring is important. All of our projects are ranked and scored, and the highest scoring are the ones that get selected. And so any changes we allow the public to provide us some input on. What I am simply going to do is just touch on specifically where the biggest change points are. A lot of the other point changes were real small increases and decreases to kind of reduce the weight of certain categories. And so what we did do, though, that is something that is pretty large, is that our projects is based on comments that we received, actually. We had received written comments about a project set aside that we have, which is a parity. It's redevelopment and renovation parity. And basically what this parity is that the reason why we created it was because we wanted to balance new construction and renovation needs. And what we were finding is that new construction was scoring higher than our renovation projects on a regular basis. And so we weren't getting any renovations through. And so we created this parity, which basically says that the first highest scoring application, if it's new construction, the next one that we fund is going to be a highest scoring renovation project. And so that way we at least get 2 out the door that are one of each. And then we go back to the highest scoring, whatever is next. Over time, we've added some additional preserving affordability type of points. And so new construction and renovation are actually getting through. And we had partners say that the parity, because we may choose a lower scoring renovation over a higher scoring new construction, we were not getting the highest scoring projects through. And we agreed that quite frankly, the parity had become obsolete. The last 2 years, the parity didn't come into play with regard to our scoring, and so we decided to remove that. So that's probably the biggest change of the plan. And so with that, I will stand for any questions or request you to approve.
So move.
Second.
Discussion.
No, the only thing I see is modifying the points and how they're allocated. It's good, good move.
Roll call.
Commissioner?
Yes.
Attorney General?
Yes.
Alderman?
Yes.
Next item is a request to approve the 2026 Housing Incentive Plan allocation plan. I do want to note that this is for the multifamily activity only. So we do have a separate allocation plan that was for the single family activity. We're not proposing to make any adjustments to that at this time, so it didn't go through a public comment period or anything. The multifamily, though, it is paired very complementary to the low-income housing tax credit. And so the only thing that I'm going to talk about is related to a pretty significant change. In our last appropriation, we received $25 million. That was $5 million was set aside for single family and $20 million was made available for the multifamily activity. We currently have about $4.5 million left for the September 2026 funding round, and then we'll be out for the biennium. And totally out, we'll have fully committed all of the funds. So one of the changes that we are proposing is to increase the maximum award of the Housing Incentive Fund on certain categories. And so originally we would propose to increase that maximum from $1 million to $2 million for the 9% tax credits. And overall, the total was $3 million maximum anybody could get, and increasing that to $4 million. Based on conversation with our partners during the public input period, we made the decision to actually propose a totally different opportunity, which is to have up to 20% of the total development costs for a project that is using 9% tax credits, and then or tax credits completely, and then up to $4 million. And so instead of limiting the low-income housing tax credit to a $2 million maximum, it is 20% of the total development cost, not to exceed $4 million. And the reason for this is, number one, the low-income housing tax credit program, because of increased cost of construction, those credits aren't going as far as they usually do. And then secondly, our market with investor risk and some other tax implications nationally, the tax credit pricing is lower, which means that we're getting less equity into deals. And so there's larger financing gaps that HIP is needed to help fill those needs. So with that, it's a really big change. What will it do? What we're hoping this change does is allow us to get one more low-income housing tax credit out the door, because currently, based on our small state minimum, we get about 3-4 projects. This should help us get 5 low-income housing tax credit projects out the door utilizing HIP. But on the other side, one project could take $4 million. And if we have $4.5 million left in our budget, it's possible that there's one HIF project next year that's awarded. So it just shows how quickly HIF can be utilized. So with that, I'll stand for any questions on it.
So move.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Commissioner?
Yes.
Attorney General?
Yes.
Yes.
The next is just a report. The Home and Housing Trust Fund allocation plans are plans that are HUD federally required, and they are incorporated into an annual action plan that HUD approves. So this is just a report letting you know that we've gone through the process, that the changes to the plans are in line with exactly what we do with the low-income housing tax credit and the housing incentive fund, because we keep all 4 allocation plans to mirror each other. And there was no additional items outside of what we've already talked about, changes. That's my report. Other questions? Move to the next report.
Next report.
All right. The next report I have for you is regarding our homeless programs, the 2026 Emergency Solutions Grant, which is a HUD program, and then the 2026 North Dakota Homeless Grant Allocation Plan. There actually was quite a few changes related to the allocation plans for our homeless programs. Previously, took over the program from administration from Department of Commerce in 2023. And for the first biennium, we pretty much followed what Commerce was doing, making a few tweaks here and there, just trying to not make significant changes to the partners who utilize those programs without working through what are some things that can be done better to move those dollars more efficiently. Over time, what we have discovered is that the North Dakota Homeless Grant, because it's state funded only, we can take more opportunities to be more flexible than the federal dollars and fill some more gaps that the federal dollars just won't let us do. And so we have been proposing to decouple the administrative policies, which was one policy previously, and have two separate policies for these programs. And then secondly, we wanted to update our scoring criteria to make adjustments and more transparency with how we rank and score the applications. And we added performance measures. So projects that are reducing homelessness, that have fewer returns to homelessness with the people that they are helping, and other increased income, increased access to earned benefits like Social Security and Medicaid. Those numbers, having those improvements, will have higher scores and be projects that we select. And so projects that aren't performing may fall out. And so that's what we're proposing in the scoring criteria with this round. So just kind of moving that needle a little bit more to create a little bit more accountability with how we award those funds to our partners. And that's my report on, and that ends my questions.
Feel like I've had questions, but
There's a lot there. Yep. We
we
actually,
went on them a lot.
we, there's a lot of requirements that are coming out with not a lot of guidance, which makes it difficult for us to enforce things with our partners. So that can be challenging, but
They also forget we have a fairly short construction season.
there is that, the Build America, Buy America has been a real challenge for our projects. We have two of them right now that are trying to fulfill those requirements. They have,
But if it takes you a month, you lose the season.
well, not only that, they have to keep rebidding because they're not finding things. And so the bid changes because you can't buy the rest of the items that they can find until the contract can be executed, and just keeps moving the needle for us as far as breaking ground or executing contracts with anybody. So yeah, that's probably the worst one for us right now. Additionally, one final comment on the Housing Incentive Fund, $20 million. We definitely could have gotten that out in one fiscal year instead of the full biennium, but because of other federal things, we have 4.6 left, but that's not going to go very far. So we're definitely going to do less than what we approved this last session.
Under the annual report, I'll just give you a quick synopsis. As you're going through there, just some of the highlights. Obviously, it talks about our housing needs assessment. We do that in collaboration with NDSU, and we're working on updating that. So hopefully in September, we'll have an update looking at projections another 5 years, and then working about also 10 years. We'll have that prior to session with updated information. We also have a new housing portal out as well through NDSU that local communities can use instead of bugging us for all the information, digging through files. They can go through and find it at city, county, state, tribal level. We have all the data from all the local MLSs in there. It's not live yet. That portion's not, but all of that data, they can go and they can crunch it, keep maps, all that kind of stuff they can use as fodder for what they need in their communities, which so far early results are, it's fantastic for some of these local communities to do some planning using some of that data. So I think it'll just get more robust as we go, as we see the needs of communities and questions they have with those updates in September. Home ownership section, there's a great story on page 8 there. A couple that we highlighted in Mandan, they just bought their first home last summer. They have a teenage son. Some of those stories kind of remind us of why we do what we do. They're both in recovery. So kind of a great story. If you want to go click on that, we did a video story on them as well. In our history, we've helped a little more than 56,000 households on their homeownership journey. Last year, almost 4,000 started that journey. A little over 1,000 of those use their down payment assistance to get in a home. Without that, they might not have been able to purchase a home. Our loan servicing continues to set records every month. A little over 14,100 was the end of the year, and now it's probably a few hundred higher than that. We service principal balance of those loans, about $2.5 billion. We're the second largest servicer in the state, largest servicer of FHA loans in the state. Average age, if you like some of those numbers, 32. You see some of those out on the market, what the average ages are, just 32, and it's stayed that way probably since the last 10 years. It hasn't changed. Average income was about 75,000. Average purchase price is about 240,000. Again, statewide. Obviously, Bismarck, Fargo, it's going to be a little bit higher. Our community housing and grants management, as Jen just talked about, we did funding commitments last fall for 658 new housing units in the state. They also oversee compliance for 10,000 rental units throughout the state. So her team gets a lot of windshield time driving throughout the state, visiting all those nice small communities. 80 homes received accessibility upgrades through Helping Hand and RAV. And then Jen's team also manages a total of about $63.5 million in state and federal funding. She mentioned a little bit about our homelessness programs, and some of it is in there. We held our first homelessness conference last fall. It was very successful, and we're looking to do that every other year. On a biannual basis, I think is kind of the plan. And then I was
What does successful look like for a conference like that?
what were we projecting for attendance?
We had hoped to at least get 100 people to attend, and 200, I
About
think is what
200,
we had
yeah.
for registration, and it was good networking and team building for our providers. We had a great opening session that really started the conversation of ways to rethink how we address homelessness. So, yeah.
It's really, getting all those people in the room said if they don't have the resource, they have somebody else they can go to that might have it throughout the state, just connecting all those dots that they're not alone, and trying to figure out those solutions, that there's always somebody else that maybe can help, as another program they can help. And then Jen said, we're the continuing care coordinator for the state, and then, the North Dakota Interagency Council on Homelessness got restarted last fall. Jennifer chairing that committee, doing great work. They'll get a report to you here probably in the next few months, hopefully, with some of those findings.
Who's in charge of the homeless census in the state? Like, where can people get objective information that, wow, this is the problem, and private sector people that are looking to help be part of that solution? And
So all of our programs that get money from our federal and state, even the COC, are required to utilize what's called the Homeless Management Information System, which inputs everyone that's coming through their doors, what their needs are, and then some of their demographics. And so you can go onto the COC's website where that data is housed. And what it'll show you then is how many people are accessing those services on an annual basis, monthly basis. Is it shelter? Is it homeless prevention? Does that cover everybody? No, because there are people that are not participating in our programs and are still doing some work. And then some other things you can kind of do is our housing portal. It references how many individuals are cost burdened, which is a key indicator of risk for homelessness. And so all those kind of put together to give you some rough numbers of what our need is.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll share is, we always measure our success by how many people we help. So last year with all of our programs, a little over 22,000 North Dakotans we helped with our programs. So widely successful. So it's a great year.
When you say 22,000, is that just for primary, or is that count the family unit, or like probably more than that?
It is probably more. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's counting it.
Households, right?
It's households, is how many home loans we purchase, how many loans we service, how many unhoused individuals we help. But yeah, it's probably higher than that. There's a lot we can't count, but I get close. It's always put the plus behind it, right? Other than that, the only other items to tell you is last month we were named for the 5th year to the Best Mortgage Companies to Work For by National Mortgage News again. It's a great honor. So 75% of the scoring on that comes from our employees survey. Only 25%, they ask us about what benefits and things like that they get, but 75% of it is weighted on what the employees have to say. Other than that, we're also planning this fall some housing forums in September after our needs assessment is put out. So Fargo, Mandan, and Dickinson, we're going to have 3-hour sessions. Hopefully have some legislators join us and community leaders talk about housing. B&D folks will be at the table, Commerce will be at the table, home builders will be at the table. Hopefully a nice round discussion, kind of before session starts, trying to circle the wagons.
Thank you.
Good. Nice. Closing, right?
Yes, sir. With that.
Commission members, all of the materials for this first executive session are
Not the second one. First, don't even take it out of your folder. Get tackled. Okay, Gov, I move that under the authority of the North Dakota Century Code, section 6-09-35, 17-05-14, 44-04-18.4, 44-04-19.2, 54-63-02, and 54-63.1-6, the Industrial Commission entered into an executive session for the purpose of Clean Sustainable Energy Authority confidential business, Transmission Authority confidential business, and Renewable Energy Program confidential business.
Second,
Roll call.
Attorney General,
Yes.
Commissioner,
yes.
Governor.
I better stretch. We got a lot to say now. Commission is meeting in executive session pursuant to NDCC 6935, 4404, 19.2, and 5463.106 to discuss a recommendation by the Clean and Sustainable Energy Authority related to a CSEA loan. Only commission members, their staff, mission staff, CISA members, and representatives from Minnesota Power Cooperative will participate in the executive session. Following the Clean and Sustainable Energy Authority executive session, the commission is meeting in executive session pursuant to NDCC 1705-14, 4404-8.4, and 4404-19.2 to consider a transmission authority federal grant application discretion and 2 confidentiality requests. Only commission members, their staff, commission staff, and the Transmission Authority Executive Director will participate in this session. Following the Transmission Authority Executive Session, the Commission is meeting in executive session pursuant to NDCC 4404-18.4, 4404-19.2, and 5463.02 to discuss a renewable energy program confidentiality request. Only commission members, their staff, and commission staff will participate in the executive session. Any formal action taken by the commission will occur after it reconvenes in open session. I remind the commission members and those present in the executive session that the discussion must be limited to the announced purposes. This executive session is anticipated to last approximately 45 minutes and will begin at 1:37 p.m.
Yeah.
Why is that shared?
Raise your
Right.
return.
I really, I think I've ever seen. Like, oh. Oh, I'm supposed to get this 65.
Thanks. David sent out an updated description. I don't know if he just sent that to me, but I'll make sure everybody has it by the end.
What's wrong with that TV? It's making my hair look gray. Yeah, no, it's broken. Yeah, the heaters. Good one. I can still remember back getting spray Christmas. I would be like, guys, we're having sex stuff. Seems like just yesterday. All
Never been excited that way.
Barbers. I heard it. I got all gray hair.
Oh, no, you're good. I'm Aaron, by the way.
I'm Natalie.
Nice to meet you.
He quits.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Legislative.
Yeah. Yes. This isn't some, we're a lawyer setting some arbitrary deadline. Nothing to do with you. Yeah. Jonathan's.
Yep.
Please.
Thank you.
John, thank you. Do you like the advice to not having the camera on? Things I've learned, being able to sleep. Yeah, when it gets dark, they shadow up. It has tricks with your eyes.
Once you see yourself.
They have even combat shooting, everything.
I'm Natalie. I'm
God bless you. Thank you for keeping us.
working together.
Yeah, we don't want to shoot us.
Why we kill
Everybody. Even with that migraine.
Casey, right?
Communication strength.
Which games? Oh, yeah. Yes. Sure.
I'm busy. That's fine.
Drew's suppliers.
You are. Quinley loves this. She was at lunch to Instagram to learn, bringing her a couple. I said, the egg commissioners pushing these things that.
How I get you hooked and then,
Yeah, she loved them.
couple. Oh,
That's something about stable coin last week that I was.
A lot of headlines.
We're good.
no, we gotta.
Are we ready?
That's one of the things that I read.
Drew, are you ready or do you want to be here till 7?
I'm letting them know a couple things about stable coin.
Read 2 articles. Speak up dangerous.
All right. The executive session has ended at 2:37 PM and the commission is reconvened in open session. During the Clean and Sustainable Energy Authority executive session, a recommendation by the authority was presented and discussed. What are the committee's wishes?
So move the motion.
Second.
Discussion, which we can't really do. All right, roll call.
Commissioner,
Yes.
Attorney General,
Yes.
Governor,
Yes. During the Transmission Authority executive session, a request was considered for the Transmission Authority to act as lead applicant of a DOE grant. What are your wishes?
So move.
Second.
No discussion. Roll call.
Commissioner,
Yes.
Attorney General,
Yes.
Governor,
Yes. Don't eat a chewy candy before you got to read a bunch of things, by the way. I blame the egg. Also, during the Transmission Authority executive session, 2 confidentiality requests were presented and discussed. What are your wishes?
So move.
Second.
Roll call.
Commissioner,
Yes.
Attorney General,
Yes.
Governor,
Yes. During the Renewable Energy Program executive session, a confidentiality request was presented and discussed. What are your wishes?
Move it.
Second.
Roll call.
Commissioner,
Yes.
Attorney General,
Yes.
Governor.
Yes. All right. Jordan, then in sustainable.
On the renewable now.
Oh, yeah, renewable. Sorry.
First, to show you briefly the money side, so we have $3 million at cap. That's been met already. This biennium, and then let's return back to a couple of projects that were decommitted last year. We have $4 million in the fund right now. For more than usual. And also it's somewhat of a product of there only being a couple of applicants per grant round, like including this time. But so you got a healthy 4 million there uncommitted and $1 million in requests now. And then there, of course, there's 2 more grant rounds for the rest of this biennium before new money would start coming in. In 2027. So it's sitting in good shape here for some good projects. So to dive into slide, so just dive into first project by Xylion is how they thought it concept. Requesting $500,000 on a $1.5 million project, looking to extract rubidium from Bakken saltwater. So we've had lithium projects, now here's for rubidium, and the market is a little different than lithium, but it still includes batteries, but it includes a lot of other things like as far as timekeeping clocks with the technology involved that it loses a second every 10,000 years is what they say, things like that. And so it's a $4 billion market right now. And they're looking to do the first pilot project here from Bakken's brand. Any Any questions on that?
$4 billion market for clocks that lose a fraction of a second every,
The rubidium market is 4 billion.
I see. It's not the clock itself.
And the rubidium is what makes the clock function properly in
Yeah.
10,000 years,
Yeah, I'm not.
or at least the first 9,000 years. Yeah. I did it. I move it.
Yeah, second.
Discussion received the unanimous approval of recommendation from the Renewable Energy Council.
Yep.
Roll call.
Commissioner,
Yes.
Attorney General.
Yes.
Governor.
Yes.
The second project from Flickertail Resources. So the gasification process that was developed by the ERC a couple decades ago, with DOE funds, now that gasification process is now licensed through Singularity Energy Technologies, and so Flickertail Resources. This project, it's a $2.8 million project, $500,000 grant request. And the request is, so the project is to utilize the gasification technology to be able to reuse biomass. Are you looking at railroad ties, for example, where companies have to pay to get rid of them usually? And so they're able to use gasification technology to extract double the energy that out of it than just burning it. And then with that, it can be used for whether it's electric generation or there's a lot of uses that can come from the negative carbon intensity energy products that they're looking at. We also received a unanimous approval recommendation from Renewable Energy Council.
So move.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Yes.
Attorney General.
Yes.
Governor.
Yes. Nathan. You don't have anything else, do you, Jordan? No. Okay.
All right, my best to help you get that up. We don't have any orders this month from the DMR. I just wanted to run through the sheet that's in your packet, a little bit on oil production. It decreased very slightly from December to January by about 1,300 barrels a day. January oil production of 1.124 million barrels per day. And gas was somewhat steady at 3.34 BCF a day.
You look good.
Yeah. That gray hair that you were talking about.
You got lots of it.
Yeah. Story really is the long laterals continuing to increase in the amount of long laterals that are occurring in the state. We have 35% of the permits that we're issuing now are greater than 2 mile laterals. So that's allowing the operational efficiencies that are keeping production relatively flat. Had recent operating meetings recently indicating that most operators were going to hold production relatively flat for 2026. Few operators with a slight increase, and then one with a decrease, but expected production stays flat for 2026. On the legislative side, we presented during a stripper well study that was to the Tax Reform and Relief Advisory Committee a week ago. We also presented an update on oil and gas to the legislative budget section, regulatory division last week as well. And I want to announce that Tara Vesey has started as the deputy director. She stands behind me right now, and now into the commission. So commissioners, and she started, this is her third day. She's
A3, got it all figured out.
right, yeah. Right, so look forward to her integrating the team over time. We have Ed Murphy, of course, announced his retirement, and we're in the process of hiring for that role. The position was posted, it's closed, and we have several good candidates. It looks like some of which are internal, and then a few external candidates as well. So I think we're in a good spot there to meet the timelines that we've set for ourselves.
Tara, when is the Strait of Hormuz going to open?
Yeah, sure. We hope.
Every 3 days.
I heard it was 5 days.
5 days. All right. See you next week.
Yeah. Other than that, we're preparing for the Williston Municipal Petroleum Conference on May 19th. Those are my notes for month, and if you have any questions.
Is, casual readers of the news would see that we're in a conflict of some sort over in Iran, and you wonder how quickly these things ramp up. I think some people think, well, tomorrow will be 8 new rigs in North Dakota and they'll be pumping away. I read something the other day, 100 million barrels a day global consumption. And to think that North Dakota is producing 1.1 million barrels a day, feeding into that global consumption is remarkable. I don't know why I thought it was so much more than that. But anyway, there it is. And so you wonder, how long does it take rigs to react, to get into the state and start saying, well, this is long-term enough, sufficient to.
Yeah, well, many of the operators in the state now are super majors. We have Chevron, Exxon, Conoco, Devon, a lot of those companies, and they generally play the long game, and they don't necessarily always react to the short-term price fluctuations that we're seeing right now. Now, the longer that the Iran conflict goes on, the barrels that are on the water will start to get chewed up as far as the oversupply in the world. The longer that occurs, the more likelihood that prices remain higher for longer, even when the conflict is over. And so, wouldn't expect too much from many of the larger operators in the state from the short term, but we'll see as 2027 comes around.
Well, and even most of the smaller guys now aren't just here.
Right.
And some of them are still chasing leasehold in other places.
In other places. So, yeah, there are not too many that are just Bakken pure play or North Dakota pure play operators anymore. There is one big one, the largest in the state. So, just more. So,
But they spread their risk out, so.
yeah, right. Yep.
It's going to be an interesting conference.
We good.
Yeah, always is.
Yeah.
Always good.
All right.
Thanks.
They did my best to get you guys back on track.
Well, 3 minutes behind, but Justin will get us on track. Hi, Justin.
Good afternoon.
And your supplier to get caffeinated if you want.
Oh, you don't need that. Too many slides, Chad.
So don't eat it before you start talking.
So this afternoon, I've got a couple items for the Pipeline Authority. The first will be a public kind of update on what's been happening. There's been several exciting developments as it relates to natural gas pipeline projects within the state, and then we will transition into an executive session with representatives from WBI Energy to discuss the open season. You'll hear about it here in a moment. So with that, let's fast forward to slide. First several slides, much of this is routine, just updates for your staff to have the latest, greatest. On page 5, slide 9. This is the first project update I want to provide. That is on the TC Energy Kinder Morgan Bakken Express project. That was one that was anticipated to be in service this month. It is the first significant pipeline expansion in recent years to address some of the natural gas constraints that we have in the Bakken. That project now has been delayed May in service, so it's a couple of months. Timing appears and the marketplace to be working just fine. That's not going to be a major hiccup for the basin itself. That will add 300 million cubic feet of additional capacity here relatively soon. And that will be our last major expansion until we start seeing some of the larger scale projects that WBI Energy is working on here in a moment. And then we'll fast forward, Jordan, to page 7. And you heard me mention a moment ago, we have talked somewhat on these projects. So we've got several projects that WBI Energy is working on. You'll see them noted in yellow on the upper slide, slide 13. And then slide 14 just provides some additional context around those two occurring north of the lake. We have the Minot Industrial Pipeline, which is tied to the iron processing facility that North American Iron is working to develop. That segment will be dependent upon that project as its anchor. But that being said, there has been some initial work being done with landowners and surveys along that pipeline route. So things are in motion, but again, it's going to be tied to that iron processing facility and the success in that project moving forward. And the other smaller segment, Epping, That's continuing to move forward. That's line section 32 and is tied to the Basin Electric Bison generation facility. So those two being updated. And then obviously on the next slide, slide 15 on page 8, that is the Bakken East project. That is the system that we've been talking about now for over a year. And the most recent development since I've been before the commission, the beginning of February, WBI launched a binding open season. If you recall, early last year, it held a non-binding open season for version of this project. And since that time, obviously going through the RFI process and the selection process with the commission, continuing to work through customer arrangements, customer agreements. Then moving in February to that most critical step, which is that binding open season that wrapped up on March 12th. And so again, you'll hear from WBI representatives as we talk about potential precedent agreements here during the confidential session about results of that open season process. The only changes really that you're seeing on the open season came out in February versus what you would have seen during that June, July timeframe is that we now have additional other through that open season on the western segment. And when I say west, anything west of Highway 83, I'll call west. Anything east of Highway 83, I'll refer to as the eastern portion or phase 2 of the project. Timelines were not changed when that open season came out. The scale of it, we now have a picture of what the capacity is system wide. Last summer, if you recall, is around a BCF of capacity being targeted towards eastern North Dakota. And there's going to be a mix of shippers and potential anchors both on the west and the east of this system. Again, that's all confidential at this time. But again, that in theory, that scale, very similar potential to upsize it from a 36 in the west to a 42 in the west. Also the potential to upsize sections of the east phase 2 from a 30 to a 36 inch pipe. Again, that's going to be dependent upon shipper interest in the project going forward. On the bottom portion, slide 16 on page 8, what has also occurred since my last update to the commission, 14 public open house events have occurred on WBI Energy at locations all the way from the western Watford City area to the east and Castleton down to Ellendale, holding open seasons or open house events for landowners specifically during one period of time, and then opening it up to the public as well in February and March for additional feedback and information sharing those locations. I will note that at the public open houses in February and March of this year, FERC was also present with a booth, and so they're able to answer questions from the public landowners that were going to be impacted, what their process looks like. And again, as a reminder for folks, we've been very used to in North Dakota, most of our major pipeline projects have been liquids based, meaning they went through the Public Service Commission. This is a project that will be handled exclusively at the federal level through FERC as far as the siting route determination. So it's going to take a bit of a different path than what we've been used to on major infrastructure projects here in the state. That said,
Can I interrupt you a second?
Yep.
What's the public participation in those been like? Has it been robust? People are showing up for them, and are they actually people from around surrounding areas, or are they coming in?
yeah, so I attended the Bismarck session, so it was typically at the open houses, landowners from that geographic.
Yeah.
I know in Bismarck, I ran into one landowner that was up in the Watford area, but they had land in Watford, but lived in Bismarck, so they were there. I would say it was, from what I could tell during my time, pretty well attended. I learned a lot. Set up with multiple booths, kind of highlighting different topics of the project itself. And that I enjoyed being able to talk to the folks that are boots on the ground. Those are the folks that are sitting at the table with landowners, what their experiences have been like so far and the reception that they're getting. I don't know if there's any comments from the WBI representatives, but from what I understand, all
They're
they're
really positive.
Yeah.
On that whole location.
Good. What are the concerns? Any concerns outside of what we would expect? Just things going through there.
No, not really. What you would expect.
Yeah.
Probably a little more concerned in the Ellendale area, just.
Little fatigue down there?
Huh?
Little fatigue down there?
Yeah, they were probably the most vocal. but still generally positive from the.
And then FERC, through their siting process, they will also be holding open house events and public input events as well at locations along the pipeline. So those will not be the only times for the public to interface. There will be opportunities from the regulatory side where they will be able to submit comment, provide information to the FERC staff here locally, and we're going through that process. But those dates have not been set.
Any legislators showing up for those or local county commissioners, leadership?
I would suspect, yes. I mean, I've seen a nod. When I was there, I did not see any, but yeah.
There's so much negative national media coming out about infrastructure. Pick your deal, but then the data centers in particular, you see it all. It's pretty interesting.
And my gut and sense from other conversations is that's probably where a lot of the questions I would probably the ultimate root of their questions and trying to understand the project because of some of the end use pieces versus the actual pipe and the agreements going in place from section of it. So
I think it goes to say too that our data centers in the north function much different than the ones in the south and warmer weather. So you hear a lot of rhetoric that comes out of there, and then they make comments towards ours, and they're like, they don't function and operate that way.
I would say speculative. But there's a flavor to it wherever you're reading.
Yeah.
You know, as you see last week reading those papers and elsewhere, there's a flavor to it. There's a thread that's being woven, and whatever. I mean,
It's almost like it's coordinated.
that's what I was saying. You know, there's talk of it being foreign governments that are coordinating part of that. That wouldn't shock me. It's pretty easy to do. They do it in elections. Why not do it for something like this? They could undermine, exciting economic opportunities for a country like ours.
absolutely.
Yeah. Interesting.
Then these are a couple of slides that WBI provided me for this update. Just some refreshed figures of how things have been going with landowners along the system itself. So on slide, it would be 17, but the upper portion of this slide on the screen. On the mainline portion, well over 90%, both on the mainline system. These are permission to surveys working with landowners. And then you'll see a lesser percentage on that section to Ellendale. But as we saw, even in the refresh numbers last summer, the timeline, that Ellendale piece, the work with landowners started later. So it's a bit of that is a natural, just a timing perspective there.
What happens again? To remind me, you don't get permission on the front end, but there's still recourse. What happens next?
As far as
If they don't get permission to go to survey.
if you don't get permission to survey, does FERC through the Natural Gas Act allow you access for condemnation or not?
At a later date,
At a later date.
at the point where we would have our actual certificate.
Our goal would be to negotiate with landowners to get permission to survey ahead of any type of that sort of thing.
I thought there was a North Dakota Supreme Court case just here in the last few years that they held they can go onto the land without, and then you obviously got to pay for any damages that occur. But that's not the case. You don't. No. Bill, I'm gonna need you to fill me in on what the case is here at some point. I know I read a case along those lines, but I should have kept reading past page 1, I guess.
We'll have to look to if that's any different with the FERC and the natural gas side
Yeah.
versus the PSC and the liquids. component.
Yeah, I wonder if that was it.
And then the updated timeline on the bottom portion of this graphic. Really the key milestones coming up. We are in the Q2 2026. We're just getting into Q2, working with all the parties that showed interest during that open season process. Continuing to work with the commission on the state's interest and participation with the goal of a Q3 submittal for the full FERC 7C application. Pre-filing with FERC did begin right before Christmas of last year. So the FERC process is in motion for the system. And a lot of just upfront work in getting the FERC staff up to speed with the project itself before the full filing would occur on target later this summer. And I'm just looking ahead at my materials here. If there's anything else that was worthy of comments, let's go, Jordan, to page 11, slide 21. And this is just a refresher for commission, staff, public, everyone else. In the event of commission continue to move forward with a capacity position and looking at that waterfall arrangement of desirability for what the state does with that contracted capacity, and working with folks, a number of conversations already with companies that may or not have had appropriate timing to be at the table today with WBI. May have expansion plans or may have other development projects in mind or in the works behind the scenes that would be targeting the use of the state capacity for long-term release. And then again, moving down the chain, working with an asset manager and running capacity, the state would still hold once the project would be in service in 2030. Again, the state would be on the hook to continue to pay those obligated rates through that precedent agreement structure. Again, there are ways in order to monetize as best possible through that asset management arrangement. The other piece that you'll see on the next slide, 22, this is something that I wanted to just make the commission aware that this was on my mind. My mind is going this direction a little bit, is the potential use of this capacity that the state may hold for North Dakota owned facilities. We've seen this in practice. It was a bit of a surprise to me a few years ago to find that the Pipeline Authority would not be the first state entity to own pipe capacity. The University of North Dakota has taken out a capacity position on the Viking pipeline in order to serve their facility. NDSU this winter has started a similar arrangement. They're going to be using someone else's capacity, but they're using an asset management arrangement for gas deliveries to the NDSU campus. So given the work that the state is looking to do, potentially being an anchor shipper on this system, we would have capacity. We have access to state facilities at scale, that through economies of scale, maybe using this program and using that capacity within an asset manager, try and reduce costs for all those state facilities that can easily be reached on the WBI system. So one thing that, again, working in the background a little bit to understand the opportunities there, but I wanted you to hear it first here. But if you have any ideas or your staff does anytime, please let me know.
I would have, and maybe this question's more fitting for Rob and Mark, but I'll ask it now, and if we have to wait till later to talk more in detail. We have pipeline going into northeastern North Dakota. Is there the ability, is there enough, when you look at the size of the pipe and the ability to pressurize it, to extend that into Grand Forks?
I think I don't want to speak out of place in the public session, but the system that, as I understand it, if constructed as proposed, that opportunity would be available. It's going to take some
Versus waiting another several years after this is done to even get a pipeline up to Grand Forks. I mean, ultimately, that may be the objective, at least some of us have talked about, but I'm just thinking about that general area.
Yeah, and that so over the last couple of months, myself and the EERC has been working on a document for broadly for the state. There was some case study work done for Grand Forks in particular about what it would take to get natural gas service, whether it was expansions of the WBI system going north, expansions on Viking, and some of the thresholds. So as soon as that gets wrapped up, I'll make sure the commission has copies of that. But I think there's,
Because we know there
Yeah.
was an expansion that was done into East Grand Forks, but that would take hooking into that, crossing the river to provide more, but I don't even know if that'd be enough. But
yeah,
that's a conversation for later, but I
Yep.
wanted to throw it out there.
and very, very valid questions and thoughts around that. And there's been significant effort to the last couple of months to try and quantify exactly what additional service in the Grand Forks could look like.
Thank you.
And then lastly, on slide 23, 24. These were just some updated figures based upon rates. So again, just the commission to understand and those that are watching this at different capacity commitment levels, dollar wise, what would that mean as far as a position on the system? So at the upper level, $50 million per year, somewhere around that 160,000 decatherms per day. When you put that in context, the full system, both west and east, you're somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 12% of the total system capacity. I know legislators, when I talk to them, that's an important number. They're curious where the state's commitment might look relative to other shippers on the system. If built at that full proposed capacity, 10 to 12% could theoretically be held by the state in these early phases of the project itself.
I tell everybody that you guarantee that the state won't be blowing any of that. I think it'll actually be less than that.
By the end of in service, I'm hoping
Yeah.
Zero.
Yeah. And then the slide 24, just an update. There was some recent announcements that Intensity was continuing to move forward with their project in the western segment, what they were calling phase 1, Mackenzie County, to the Rainbow Energy Center. And so the information is limited a bit on what's available publicly, but just know that project is continuing to move forward in the western segment of the state. And that's all I have for prepared public. I've got a lot of other slides just for reference or questions if they go that direction. I'm glad Nathan and his team took all the Middle East questions. Didn't have to take those.
Thanks.
I move that under the authority of the North Dakota Century Code, section 6-09-35, 44-04- 18.4, 44-15.1, 44-04-19.2, and 54-17.7-12. The Industrial Commission enters executive session for the purpose of Pipeline Authority confidential business, attorney consultation related to litigation, and Bank of North Dakota confidential business.
Second.
Roll call.
Attorney General,
Yes.
Commissioner,
Yes.
Yes. The commission is meeting in executive session pursuant to NDCC 4404-18.4, 4404-19.2, and 54-17.7-12 to discuss the North Dakota Pipeline Authority confidential business. Only commission members, their staff, commission staff, but the Pipeline Authority Executive Director, Department of Mineral Resources staff, and the representative from WBI Energy Transmission will participate in the executive session. Following the Pipeline Authority executive session, the commission is meeting in executive session pursuant to 4404-19.1 and 4404-19.2 for the purpose of attorney consultation related to litigation. Commission members, their staff, commission staff, and Department of Mineral Resources staff will participate in the executive session. Following the attorney consultation executive session, the commission is meeting in executive session pursuant to NDCC 609-35, 4404-18.4, 4404-19.2 to discuss Bank of North Dakota confidential business. Only commission members, their staff, commission staff, Bank of North Dakota staff, and representatives from ICER will participate in the executive session. Any formal actions taken by the commission will occur after it reconvenes in open session. Combined commission members and those present in executive session, discussion must be limited to announced purposes. The executive session is anticipated to last 90 minutes and will begin at 3:10 p.m. Yes.
So.
Second.
Roll call.
Commissioner,
Yes.
Attorney General,
Yes.
Governor,
Yes. Also, during the Bank of North Dakota executive session, motions were made regarding 2 bank participation loans. We will take the vote on the first motion.
Commissioner,
Yes.
Attorney General,
Yes.
Governor,
Yes. Take the vote on the second motion.
Commissioner,
Yes.
Attorney General,
Yes.
Governor.
Yes. Don, you're up.
Okay, we'll move quickly here. Just an update. I have a most recent dashboard on the farm financial stability loan. Grain inventory loan. So we ended up, we shut off applications at the $500 million limit you guys had approved us up to on Monday. We've ended up with about 52 million in applications oversubscribed that are not going to fall within the program, but we are working on a case by case basis with our financial institutions, deal by deal, figure out what is a good other solution, more in line with how we do our normal participation loans and our normal participation vertical. So we're working through, now that we have a peak to the mountain, we are working through getting all the rest under the program through underwriting and on to loan funding and closing. So things are moving forward. In terms of the FERC 2.0 program, we've had 4 applications from TSA. We've had a lot of outreach on thankfulness for the program, and we expect TSA and some Border Patrol to continue to utilize it. Again, we're not expecting high volume, but this is more very targeted and very important in terms of security and airport travel and border protection for North Dakota. So
Saw that Gate City Bank is doing this. Gate City, yeah, Gate City has some sort of a program for,
Probably back by
Using
the Bank of North
ours?
Dakota.
probably.
Yeah.
Well, no, because they go through their local
Yeah.
banks, so.
Yep.
And they do offer, like even last time they shut down, they do offer, working with some of their customers that are
Okay.
affected as well on their own program.
Yeah.
Also, they do
Yeah.
some
No.
It's a
internal.
good customer retention tool when you know that that's all back
Better believe
pay.
it.
There's law that says they get their back pay.
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah, and we usually structure ours right alongside them, and kind of then they have options for city.
Next meeting, will you give us an update on the 52 million?
Sure.
How you guys help process all of that?
Yeah, it'll be a process to work through those over the next, 3, 4, 5, 6
Hopefully by the
weeks.
next meeting.
Yeah, so we'll give you updates as we go.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. Okay, that's all we have. In my CO update summary, I think we covered the credit quality, you can see it continues to come down, and then just we're on track with all of our goals and rocks. I think we should get to budget support 2026 and smart plan. Those are the approvals here and open. So Rob, let's grab up to the page.
Attachment 22.
And then Rob will pick the budget and I'll step in on the smart plan.
And I'll be fairly brief, looking at the budget for annual budget 2026. Just in general assumption, we have 2 rate cuts in this budget, $52 to $50 oil still at 1.1. Cost of funds are relatively flat. And our ROA average is about 2.45 for 2026 compared to about 2.09. High level assets dropped about 3%, projected to drop about 3% to about 10.3 billion from 10.7 billion. Biggest drivers there, total deposits down about 10%, and borrowings are up. And that's primarily just because of the timing of how our buckets fill at the bank relative to the general fund and the waterfall. The next page is the income statement budget for 2026. Budgeted net income for 2026 is 255 million. This is a 10% increase over 2025, which is 232 million. Biggest driver there is the overall index rates are down with some of the cuts we experienced last year. Whether we get 1 or 2 cuts, we shouldn't have too much variability, but we anticipate rates still kind of stabilizing, being down a little bit. In the non-operating or non-interest expense line item, you can see towards the bottom, about 52 million compared to 42 million, which is a $10 million increase over 2025. Primary drivers are a couple things. One is we've got a budgeted UAS student loan conversion, and we have 1.4 million for Finastra conversion. And then we did put a little bit of contingency in for some of the stable coin and a little bit of our student loan conversion. As you know, those types of things, you always run into some costs that tend to not be in your fixed budget. So overall, looking at a 10% increase in net income for 2026, around $255 million.
So move.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner,
Yes.
Attorney General,
Yes.
Waters,
Yes.
Smart plan for 2026, ties right into that. As we reported last time, the advisory board did not approve it at the prior meeting. They wanted to do more due diligence and make sure that the plan for next year was appropriately stretched. And we just took it through advisory board. We made adjustments and got approval from them to move forward. I think they felt in their vote it was appropriately stretched. Here are the changes we've made from where we were originally coming in. We moved the financial performance buckets and the mission strategy weighting from 25-25 to 20-30. And that lines up, and we want the SMART plan every year to line up with what is the highest strategic importance for the next year. So let me give you an example. Let's say we have a year where we're losing money or net income is down significantly, and our biggest strategic push is to turn financial performance around. We're going to weight more into financial performance and less in other categories. Or if we have a major credit quality event, we might weight credit quality higher. Again, this is a motivation tool for staff. Because this year financial performance looks great, we're increasing net income another 10%. Mission and strategy, the Rough Rider coin moving forward, other things that, Traction EOS implementation, building that talent management culture, continuing that work. So we felt there was a good alignment to the strategic plan for 2026 by adjusting that. Now you're saying, well, that doesn't stretch. I agree. Here comes the stretch. So in financial performance, we moved before we could get to the max target in terms of total return. And keep in mind, total returns, the net income we deliver, plus the interest we pay on state captive deposits to 5.1. And let me give you a little history. In terms of total return, we've never hit 5.1. In fact, our 5-year average here up till 2025 has been in that 350 range. Last year, we were at 469. And so 5.1 hitting that would be extraordinary for us next year. We'd have to have some extraordinary event. And keep in mind, our net income is already pushed to $255 million. In terms of net interest margin, we pushed the bottom of the max range up to 320, and net interest margin has averaged 250 over the last 5 years, ended up at 284 in 2025. And so to hit beyond 320 again would be extraordinary. So I would say we stretched that significantly. We did put more weight to mission strategy, but we also now for the first time have put in some quantitative metrics into mission and strategy. And that, if you go to my CO update report, the rocks and the goals that I show you via our Traction EOS system. Now keep in mind, that's the highest level summary. Below those are about 30 quarterly executive rocks that support accomplishment of those. And as we roll out through the organization, we'll be running on about 120 to 150 rocks that line up to accomplishment of our overall company rocks, our annual goals, and accomplishment of our 4-year VTO. So that starts to tell us the execution of mission and strategy in the organization in a quantifiable way. And so we've put that in there. Normally, Traction calls for an 80% completion rate. We stretched that to an 85% completion rate for this next year. So we stretched a bit. I mean, overall, if we kind of hit just target where we think based on all the factors, budget and the unknowns and what we've got to move and various goals and rocks and whatnot, we're probably coming in around the high 13s next year would be my best guess. And we came in at about 14.25. Now, I'm not saying that like we're going to manage to that. I'm going to leave here assuming you approve us to move forward, and I'm going to do my best to hit max target for the whole staff. And we're going to do our best to do that. But reality also has something to say here. And I think reality is we'll come in somewhere around that target.
So move.
Second.
Discussion.
I'm glad you adjusted those.
Yes, sir.
I just like the idea that you're basing it on what you want to do the next year, and you just don't have a constant Christmas bonus structure that we all say is a performance bonus, but it's just a baked in bonus. So.
Yep.
It's gotta be a motivation tool, otherwise there's not much point to it.
Stretch goals, like it.
Roll call.
Commissioner?
Yes.
Attorney General?
Yes.
Governor?
Yes.
Okay, so I think that's all we have.
Is there a motion to approve the meeting? Or do we have to approve them, right?
Not the banks.
No.
Yeah.
Seconds.
Roll call.
Commissioner?
Yes.
Governor? And then the last thing we have for you is just, we're seeking your approval to make adjustments to our grant program policies in order to implement our new grant management system, which is all electronic based. And we have to go through all of our grant policies to get rid of those things that require paper submission of applications and reports and things like that. So that's the policy change.
To allow you to take that, oh, sorry.
You made a motion?
Yeah.
I'll second.
I know this isn't for this one, but which one was the one that you told me that they have to do like 9 paper copies to 9 different people? Like Lignite or,
And it's
but that's an admin rule, right?
paper copies. Arlene fine. So we have to make an adjustment there, but that's an admin rule. So
Are these, and like, so these are going, like, we're going to allow for the flexibility for you guys to take them how it's best for you to take the information, people who need it in this way.
yes,
Okay, good. I like that idea. Roll call.
Commissioner,
Yes.
Attorney General,
Sure.
Governor.
Yes. He wants his 9 paper copies.
You're stubbornly staying in the dark ages.
I'll be the first time.
Anything else for the good of the,
The only other thing would be that our next regular industrial commission meeting is Tuesday, April 28th. We'll be back in the morning time slot starting at
I do like that better. Will we have the start of a plan for Anna?
yes, we all need to.
Yeah.
Yes. And we can bring an update on it.
Good.
Thanks, everyone. That was
Move to adjourn.
move to adjourn.